So today we're diving into a really profound story from the Śrīmad Bhagavatam. It's this powerful account of duty, of devotion, and how one of the greatest warriors in history chose the perfect moment to die.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're on the battlefield of Kurukshetra after this huge, devastating war. And in the middle of all the silence and ruin, a legendary figure is lying on a bed of arrows, not defeated, but just waiting to give his final and most important lesson.
But here's the thing, our story doesn't actually start with the dying warrior. It starts with the winner. King Yudhiṣṭhira, he's won the throne, he's won the war, but he is just tormented by the incredible cost of it all. The source material uses this really powerful phrase to describe him, Pita praja drohat. It means he was literally terrified by the sin of having harmed his own people. He's just completely overwhelmed by guilt, and so he seeks out the one person he thinks can help him make sense of it all, his great uncle, Bhīṣma.
And what they find when they get there, it's just astonishing. Bhīṣma isn't in some comfortable bed. He's suspended on a bed of arrows. But it's not some grim, dark scene. The text says he's radiating this divine light, looking almost like a demigod who had just fallen from the sky.
But here's the thing, the Pāṇḍava brothers and Krishna, they weren't the only ones there, not by a long shot. The significance of this moment had attracted, well, a literal who's who of the cosmic and spiritual world. They'd all gathered to witness this. I mean, think about it. This wasn't just some private family affair. This was a full-blown cosmic event. You've got the greatest sages, divine beings, celestial royalty, all drawn to this one spot by the gravity of Bhīṣma's final moments. His death was meant to be a lesson for everyone. So Bhīṣma sees his grandnephews, and they're just completely broken up, overcome with grief. And even then, pierced by all these arrows, knowing he's near his end, he begins to teach them. He gives them his final discourse on how to live and how to rule. He looks right at Yudhiṣṭhira's grief and tells him, this wasn't your fault. He uses this beautiful, humbling analogy. He says that just like clouds are helplessly moved by the wind, all of us are moved by this inescapable force called kala, or time. It's such a powerful way to think about destiny. And you can really see the two different ways of looking at this tragedy, right? Yudhiṣṭhira is stuck in this spiral of personal guilt, but Bhīṣma is pointing to something bigger, something impersonal, the unstoppable hand of destiny. And his advice is so simple but so profound. Accept what you can't change and focus on your duty, right here, right now.
And then Bhīṣma just drops this bombshell. He basically says, you know that wind of time I was talking about? Well, the ultimate source of that wind, the supreme being behind it all, has been standing right here with you the whole time. He reveals that their friend and guide, Krishna, is the true master of destiny.
Okay, so once he's instructed the king, once he's fulfilled that final duty, Bhīṣma's entire focus shifts. His work in this world is officially done. Now it's time for him to prepare for his own departure. As soon as his duty is fulfilled, this incredible change just comes over him. He completely withdraws from the world around him, his physical pain just dissolves, and his focus becomes absolutely singular. He's not a general anymore, he's not a statesman, he's a soul, speaking directly to the divine.
And so he begins his final meditation. And he starts by focusing on Krishna's divine form, remembering his incredible beauty and grace, even right there in the middle of a chaotic, terrible war.
And what's so amazing about this is how personal and intimate it is. Bhīṣma isn't picturing some distant, abstract god. He's remembering his friend, right there in the thick of it, face streaked with sweat, hair covered in the dust kicked up by the horses. It's a vision of divinity right in the middle of the gritty, worldly struggle.
But this next part, this is really the emotional peak. Bhīṣma remembers the moment when Krishna, who had sworn he wouldn't fight, literally broke his own vow and charged at him with a chariot wheel just to protect Arjuna. In that one act, Krishna showed that he valued his devotee's life even more than his own promise. So, with his mind just completely absorbed in this loving memory, the pain of the arrows completely forgotten, the auspicious moment that Bhīṣma has waited for through 58 nights of suffering, it finally arrives. And the text walks us through exactly how it happens. It's like a perfect, controlled process. First, he waits for that auspicious time, when the sun starts its northern course. Then,
He completely merges his mind, his words, his sight, everything into Krishna. And finally, he consciously stops his breath, and his soul leaves his body.
And it's not just the people on Earth who react. The entire universe seems to pause and take notice. Divine drums start sounding in the sky. Kings on Earth praise him. Flowers rain down. And all those powerful sages, they just fall silent, completely in awe of what they've just witnessed.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, Bhīṣma's final lesson was a total success. He freed the new king from that crushing grief and set him back on the path of dharma, of righteous duty. And this allowed Yudhiṣṭhira to rule not with a heavy heart, but with real wisdom and peace.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question to think about, doesn't it? Bhīṣma's story completely reframes death. It's not some scary end to be feared, but the final, perfect act of a life that was lived well. It suggests that, the art of dying is really perfected by the art of living, a life that's all about selfless duty and unwavering devotion. Thanks for joining this explainer.
Okay, let's dive right in. We are looking at a really monumental moment here. It's a moment of transition, of teaching, and just profound realization.
Absolutely.
This deep dive is all about what happens right after the Great War. We're zeroing in on one single, incredibly powerful chapter in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter L.
And it's so much more than just a historical footnote. It's a foundational sermon.
Right.
Our whole mission here is to really unpack the final wisdom from the dying warrior sage, Bhīṣma. Mahābhārata. I mean, just picture it. He's lying on a bed of arrows. His entire world has just collapsed.
And he's about to give his ultimate take on everything. On duty, on fate, and crucially on the real identity of the man who was technically his opponent, Lord Krishna.
Yeah, the scene itself is just, it's soaked in grief and political anxiety, really.
Totally. We find the new king, Yudhiṣṭhira, and he's traveling to the spot where Bhīṣma lies.
But he's not victorious. He's crushed by guilt.
Utterly. The slaughter of his own people, his kin. He is just consumed by this remorse, and he desperately needs guidance on how to rule a kingdom that's, built on all this destruction.
Precisely. And the urgency of his need is, it's matched only by the incredible assembly of people who gathered there. This was not a private deathbed conversation.
No, not at all. It was basically the spiritual and intellectual A-list of the entire cosmos, all gathered on a battlefield.
You have the Pāṇḍavas, of course. Krishna and Arjuna are right there with them. But they're joined by this massive confluence of sages, Brahmarshis, Devarshis, Rajarshis.
I mean, we're talking Narada, Vyasa, Vashishtha.
Gautama, Atri, all of them. It was a moment of absolute convergence. The fact that the entire spiritual world dropped everything to be there, it just underscores that what Bhīṣma was about to say wasn't just for Yudhiṣṭhira.
It was for everyone, for all of us, really, who grapple with duty and suffering.
And what's so fascinating is that even in his state, I mean, he's literally impaled on arrows. He's still the dutiful elder. He takes the time to honor every single sage there.
But then he immediately turns his full attention to worshiping Krishna. He gets it. He recognized right there who Krishna really was.
And that recognition is, it's the key that unlocks everything that comes next.
Yeah.
But before the teaching, there's the lament. He looks at the Pāṇḍavas and just tears start flowing. He's in sheer bewilderment, profound sorrow, crying out, Aho Kashtam, Aho Anyam. Basically,
How tragic, how completely unjust.
exactly.
But why is it unjust? I mean, we know the war was horrific, but why does it shock him so much?
Because it completely defies logic, divine logic especially. Bhīṣma just lays out this paradox. How could these incredibly righteous heroes suffer so terribly, especially with all the spiritual safeguards they had?
Okay, so lay out the facts of the case again. What was the
Fact 1, Yudhiṣṭhira is righteousness incarnate. He's the son of Dharma itself.
Can't get more righteous than that.
Right. Fact 2, they have unmatched material strength. Bhīma with his mace, Arjuna with the Gandiva bow. But the most important fact, the one that makes it all so confusing, Krishna. The source of all existence is their friend, their ally, their counselor. He's with them constantly.
When you have the Lord of the Universe literally riding shotgun, you'd think losing is, well, impossible.
You would think. So Bhīṣma's grappling with this. The greatest protection the cosmos could offer somehow failed to prevent the greatest tragedy. How do you reconcile that?
And that's the philosophical pivot. So how does he do it? If their piety didn't save them, what was the ultimate force at play?
She concludes that all of it, all the suffering, is ultimately caused by Kala.
Time. Or like impersonal fate.
Yes, he realizes that time is this overwhelming power that controls the whole world, even its protectors and its rules, the same way a powerful wind just controls the clouds.
Okay, I have to challenge that for a second. If Krishna is the Supreme Lord right there, isn't he also the ultimate controller of Kala? Doesn't blaming fate almost diminish Krishna's presence?
That is such an important question, but I think Bhīṣma's perspective is more nuanced. He's looking at the functional reality of the material world. So while Krishna is the ultimate source, he allows his energies, like time and fate Kala and Daivatantram, to run their course. For Bhīṣma, seeing Kala at work isn't diminishing Krishna. It's recognizing that even divine intervention doesn't just erase the laws of cause and effect.
Wow, that is a deep insight. It means that sometimes, even if you are perfectly righteous, bad things happen because the mechanism of time demands it.
And that acceptance leads directly to his core advice for Yudhiṣṭhira. He tells him, you have to see these devastating events as divinely orchestrated Daivatantram, and therefore you have to accept them.
But, and here's the tension.
Here's the tension. Accepting fate doesn't mean you just sit there. No, having accepted it, Yudhiṣṭhira must still take up the task of ruling the kingdom righteously.
That is fantastic. Accept the inevitable, but never abandon your duty. It's an act of surrender.
Exactly. And now, having set up the role of fate, Bhīṣma turns to the person who was there through it all, Krishna. And this is where he just pulls back the curtain.
This is where it gets really interesting for the Pāṇḍavas, because they're about to find out who they've been hanging out with for decades.
Oh, absolutely. Bhīṣma just declares it. He says Krishna is the primal Purusha, the original source of everything, the supreme personality of Godhead, who is just moving among the Vrishnis, fooling the world with his Maya.
So he's basically hiding in plain sight,
making everyone see him as just an ordinary, if amazing, man.
So he's saying Krishna is literally the ultimate authority, just wandering around disguised as their cousin and personal driver. It kind of turns the whole war into a cosmic joke, doesn't it?
In a way, it does. And Bhīṣma stresses, this isn't common knowledge. He names the few who are in on the secret. Lord Shiva, the Devarshi Narada, and the sage Kapila.
Which makes the Pāṇḍavas the luckiest and maybe the most oblivious people in history. They're treating the Lord of the universe like a cousin, a messenger, a charioteer.
Out of pure love and intimacy, he points that out. They argued with him, they ordered her around, but he turns that irony into this profound blessing. He says the fact that Krishna is standing right there before him at the moment of his death, that is the greatest compassion imaginable.
The ultimate final blessing. But even as he's preparing for this, spiritual exit, he still has one last massive task. Yudhiṣṭhira asks him for the final curriculum.
Right, the complete guide to righteous living. How to govern, how to live.
This is the learner's core content, as you called it, the final blueprint. And Bhīṣma, from his bed of arrows, just lays it all out.
He does. And not just, general platitudes. He gets specific duties based on your class, your stage of life.
Let's focus on the crucial ones, especially for rebuilding a shattered kingdom.
Absolutely. First, Raja Dharma, the duties of a king. This was urgent. It's not just about taxes. It's about justice, protecting the vulnerable, providing for everyone. It's the whole manual for ethical governance.
So he's giving him the playbook for how to go from being a general to being a moral administrator.
Precisely. He also covered Dana Dharma charity, generosity so essential for rebuilding society. And then at the other end, he gives the path to personal transcendence, Moksha Dharma, and most importantly, Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam, duties to the Supreme Lord. Why was it so vital for Bhīṣma, a warrior statesman, to end with spiritual instruction?
Because political duty, Rajadharma, it just can't be sustained without a spiritual foundation. Bhīṣma was teaching him that to rule correctly, a king has to see himself as a representative of the divine guiding society toward liberation.
So he connected political action directly to spiritual duty.
Exactly. He ensures the kingdom won't just be stable, it'll be virtuous. He laid out the entire framework for life duty, wealth, enjoyment, and liberation, using all these stories and histories to make his points. A full masterclass delivered from a bed of pain.
An incredible integration of the practical and the philosophical. And as he was speaking, the moment arrived.
The time of transition. This is where his boon comes in, his ability to choose his own moment of death. He's been waiting for a specific auspicious time, Yudhiṣṭhira.
When the sun starts its journey north.
Correct. It's the time yogis desire for leaving the body. It symbolizes an ascent toward light and knowledge. And so, having chosen his moment, Bhīṣma he stopped speaking.
What was his final action? What did he do?
It was pure, complete spiritual focus. He withdrew all his senses, his mind, his speech, his sight, and he fixed his entire consciousness on Krishna.
The four-armed, yellow-robed Lord who was standing right there.
That image was his final, singular focus.
And his final prayers are just amazing because they tie his spiritual realization directly back to his most intense moments fighting against Krishna.
It's the ultimate transformation. He doesn't pray to some abstract god on an altar. He prays to Krishna, the warrior. He remembers Krishna's beautiful form as Arjuna's charioteer, the dark color of his skin, the yellow garment.
But the image gets so raw. He focuses on Krishna's face, not as this pristine deity, but covered in dust from the horses, sweat.
Even split by the impact of his own arrows. He finds devotion in the grime and the violence of combat. But the one memory that crystallizes his liberation, the one he locks onto,
is the moment Krishna broke his own vow.
Ah, yes. The broken vow. Krishna had sworn not to pick up a weapon. But in this moment of fierce love for Arjuna, he just rushes Bhīṣma.
Bhīṣma remembers Krishna, enraged out of compassion for his friend, charging at him with a chariot wheel in his hand, his upper cloth fallen off, like a lion attacking an elephant.
Bhīṣma forced the Supreme Lord to break his promise just to protect his devotee.
And that moment of Krishna's passionate, vow-breaking love becomes Bhīṣma's final meditation. He realizes that even as an opponent, Krishna was showing him the deepest form of love.
He fixes his mind, speech, and sight on that figure of love and rage, and in that instant, he's free. He's free of his suffering, and he ceases breathing.
Wow.
His physical departure was simultaneous with his spiritual absorption.
And the assembly's reaction just confirms this. Sutta describes this. The silence, and then the sound of divine drums, flowers raining from the sky, and the sages all praising Krishna.
The recognition of what had just happened was cosmic. And then, of course, Yudhiṣṭhira performs the funeral rites for his grandfather, ensuring that final political transition is handled with respect.
So, with the wisdom given and the warrior sage liberated, the focus shifts entirely to consolidating the kingdom.
Yudhiṣṭhira goes to Hastinapura, he consoles the grieving king Dhritarashtra and Queen Gandhari, and secures their approval.
And most importantly, sanctioned by Krishna himself, he formally takes the ancestral kingdom and begins to rule righteously. The chaos ends with a definitive mandate for order and virtue, all founded on Bhīṣma's final teachings.
Exactly.
So let's bring this back to the core takeaways for us. The whole journey starts with Bhīṣma's despair, how tragic, how unjust, but it ends with this deep acceptance of Kala and Daivatantram.
And the lesson there is so clear. When our world seems to make no sense, when suffering defies all the protections we think we have to recognize the power of time and fate. And that acceptance is the foundation for acting correctly.
And Bhīṣma himself is the proof of the transformative power of consciousness. He went from being the general trying to kill Krishna's friends to a yogi merging with that very same person.
It shows that your past actions don't define your ability to achieve ultimate knowledge. Focus matters more than history.
Which leaves us with that powerful, really relevant paradox that Bhīṣma left for Yudhiṣṭhira. He advised the king to accept that the world is controlled by fate, but then immediately commanded him to rule righteously.
That's the practical challenge of the whole text. If destiny is set, why bother trying to be virtuous?
Right.
And Bhīṣma's answer is that true acceptance of fate isn't resignation. It's the ultimate grounding for dedicated action. Understanding the inevitable doesn't remove your duty to act righteously right here, right now.
So the ultimate wisdom isn't just about what will happen, but what you must do in the meantime. The question for you then is this: how do you balance accepting the things you can't change in your life, your own personal pala, with the necessity of dedicated righteous action in your immediate day-to-day duties? Bhīṣma's life shows us that both acceptance and action must coexist for true wisdom.